Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Maybe you wonder why I'm so close uh, in the past, 4 or 5 videos. It's because I'm in the process of taking care of this little thing, and I still have to make some adjustments. And it's like in that little story. Remember the Red Riding Hood when she goes to visit her grandmother, but the wolf already ate the grandmother, and after he already ate the grandmother, when she enters over there, he just gets the wolf get dressed in grandmother's clothes and all that, and then the Red Riding Hood comes closer and says, "Hey, grandma, why do you have such a big eyes?" And wolf said, "Grandma, so I can see you better. Why do you have such a long ears?" "Well, like me right now, so you can hear me better." So that's the whole purpose why I'm here right now. Closer, so you can hear me better until I put a microphone. So this article comes from Reuters, and it's from July 8, 2022. Russian forces unlikely to leave southern Ukraine, the Russian ambassador stated. Forces likely to stay in southern Ukraine, ambassador said. Russia will defeat Ukraine in Donbas, ambassador adds Ukrainian position to July 8 story. Okay, so he says that Russia is unlikely to withdraw from a swath of land across Ukraine's southern coast and will defeat Ukrainian forces in the whole of the eastern Donbas region, Russia's ambassador to London told Reuters. Since the February 24th invasion, Russian forces have taken control of a big chunk of territory across Ukraine's southern flank above Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014 after two referendums, and the people decided in above 80% of the 88, 89, 84 that they want to join the motherland, which is Russia. But the will of the people, we like democracy when it works our way. We don't like democracy when it works somehow that we don't like it, in a way that we don't like it. So Russia is slowly pushing Ukrainian forces out of two Russian-backed rebel regions of East Ukraine, which it has recognized as independent states. When asked how the conflict might end, Russian Ambassador Andrei Kelin said it was difficult to see Russian and Russian-backed forces withdrawing from the south of Ukraine, and that Ukraine's soldiers wouldn't be pushed back from all of Donbass. And Ukraine's soldiers would be pushed back from all of Donbass. And I'm quoting, "We are going to liberate all of the Donbass," end quote. Kellin told Reuters in an interview in his London residence, where Winston Churchill used to discuss World War II strategy with Joseph Stalin's ambassador. So they dealt with terrorists and criminals, right? And I'm quoting, "Of course, it is difficult to predict the withdrawal of our forces from the southern part of Ukraine because we have already experienced that after withdrawal, provocations start and all the people are being shot and all that," end quote. Now, Russia says Ukraine has repeatedly killed civilians in attacks on territory held by Russia-backed separatists in Ukraine's Donbas since 2014. Fighting over the front line in that region caused thousands of casualties on both sides long before Russian invasion this year. The ambassador's comments mark one of the most explicit public descriptions of Russia's potential endgame in Ukraine, essentially a forced partition that would leave Ukraine shorn of more than one-fifth of its post-Soviet territory. Uh, we all knew that. No news about that. Explicit. They said what they're gonna do. I don't know, it's news for you, Reuters. Wash your ears or change the water that you use to wash your ears because you're not listening. As some friends of mine, you're not listening. I'm listening, but I disagree with what you're saying. All right. So, nevertheless, President Zelensky says Ukraine will never accept Russian occupation. I I wouldn't either. of its territory and will fight on until the last Russian soldier is pushed out of Ukraine. What if the last Ukrainian will be eradicated in the process? What are you going to do then? Oh, you don't care. I know why. Those are just Ukrainians, right? Zelensky. No, no, we're not going to go to that one now. The Ukrainian government did not immediately comment on the Russian ambassador's remarks. Sooner or later, Kalin said, Ukraine would have to decide, strike a peace deal with Russia or continue slipping down this hill to ruin. President Putin on Thursday accused the West of decades of aggression towards Moscow and warned that if it wanted to attempt to beat Russia on the battlefield, it was welcome to try, but this would bring tragedy for Ukraine. Yeah, because they're going to be caught in between. And I'm quoting, is escalation possible? And he said, of course, Kalin said. If the flow of weapons is organized in such a way that it endangers our strategic situation, our defense, we will have to take serious measures against that. Logical. So I don't know. Why do you ask that? You just want to hear him saying to you? Yeah. Kalin said the West did not understand the true causes of the conflict and had ignored Russia's concerns. No, they understood them. And yes, they ignored them because they had their own plan. Like some people say about Pearl Harbor, if you know what I mean. Uh, the Americans were able to decode the Japanese messages. That's why some books are saying, and some historians, that actually these are claims made, and by those historians, the United States might or could have known about the attack on the Pearl Harbor, but they let it go so they can enter the war. This is how some people say. It's not me, it's the books. All right? I'm going to quote, to give you the page and all that, the quotation. Uh, you can be 2 clicks away. You might find the quotes from the books online too. So probably the same here. Yeah, we'll let it slide until the Russians lose their patience and the red lines are crossed. They're going to attack, and we say, yes, now let's go. This is what this guy is. Maybe I don't think he's right about what he's saying, but the West knew exactly what was happening over there. So Kalin said the West did not understand the true causes of the conflict. They did, and had ignored Russia's concern. They ignored it so they can reach certain goals. And I'm quoting, the narrative is very short. Russia has been aggressive against an innocent Ukraine. Kalin said, this is not true at all. Putin said the special military operation in Ukraine is necessary because Moscow had to defend Russian-speaking people against persecution, which he says the West has ignored. Look at the Minsk agreements, for instance. He also cast that the war as a necessary revolt against the United States, which he says has humiliated Russia since the 1991 fall of the Soviet Union. I told you they don't forget things. The aggressor forgets things, the perpetrator, but the victim never. The rapist might say, okay, what who are you? Who, what? When? But the victim does not forget being abused, because that hurt. So it says, fall of the Soviet Union by enlarging NATO eastwards and was using Ukraine to threaten Russia. Ukraine and its Western backers says that Putin has no justification for what they say is an imperial-style land grab against a country whose border Moscow recognized as the Soviet Union collapsed. The conflict in Ukraine began in 2014. Thank you very much. After a pro-Russian president was toppled in Ukraine Maidan revolution and Russia annexed Crimea, fighting was triggered between Russia-backed forces and Ukraine's soldiers in eastern Ukraine. Before the invasion, the United Nations Human Rights Monitoring Mission found human rights violations were committed by all sides in eastern Ukraine. It found no evidence of genocide. Moscow has also criticized a Ukrainian law which obliged all citizens to know Ukrainian. Ukraine denies it persecutes Russian speakers. Now imagine that in the United States would be a law stating that about Spanish-speaking population. No, you all have to. It's by law. When you go and apply for something, it's in Spanish. Governmental forms, Spanish, for instance. And you can still find other languages too. If you apply for a driver's license, they have translation of those in different languages, or they have translators that they call to help you, to support you, to whatever. Kremlin said Ukraine had been preparing for war for some time, helped by the United States and Britain. True, Putin says Ukraine is being used by the West as part of a plan to weaken and even destroy Russia. That's their look on the whole issue. And I'm quoting, I don't think that Europe understands what Ukrainian nationalism is, Kellin said. The result, Russia is moving closer to China, he said, and East. Yeah. And then if he says, if sanctions will continue to be imposed on Russia, we will make a big turn to China and the East. Well, that's already done. I don't know this guy's what the hell he's talking about, but nevertheless, yeah, that's already obvious, and it's been happening for about 15 years already. Well, all those drills, military drills between Russia and China, where everybody could see them, and cooperation, economic cooperation, and so on, and currency cooperation, and banking cooperation, and uh, energy cooperation, like with no other country, it seems like. Well, he says his side, Reuters reports it, and nobody cares because they ignore it. They ignore it. I'm talking about the people who have the decision makers. They ignore it because they have their own agenda, and that agenda doesn't coincide with our agenda, yours and mine. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.